Today I'm going to be going over the Season 3 scripts from the original Cyanide Friends series. Let's begin. Now first we're going to start with an episode that was released as part of the Salt reboot, Sayori's Job. This script remains largely unchanged besides a few differences. Add Wiz to the shop scenes and them going to Los Pollos Hermanos, replace Yuri explaining the portrait of Markov to Uni talking about her friend fictions, and RAV4 being Cyanide's car. Everything else in this script remains the same, regardless of the version we have. Next script, Aqua's car. The first thing we see is Aqua playing with her toy trains. Now I need to interrupt for a minute here, I feel the need to explain this joke. To keep it brief, I had a cancelled Season 2 script called the Stupidity Blaster. Basically, Aqua gets frustrated from everyone calling her stupid, so she buys a Stupidity Blaster from Sammy and she shoots everyone with it, making them stupid. A few problems arise as Cyanide and Cosma kill each other with fluorescent lights, and after Aqua revives them and even shoots Eris with the blaster, Cyanide takes it and reverses Aqua's damage. When everything goes back to normal, he shoots Aqua with the blaster, which leads to her playing with toy trains. The actress for Aqua at the time suggested that the blaster actually does nothing to her and that it's just what Aqua does in her spare time. I thought that was pretty funny. Now I had the script and even the audio mixed down for this episode, but unfortunately I lost them because of an external hard drive failure. Hopefully this catches you up to speed. Anyway, Aqua doesn't want to get bored of her trains, so she decides to go to Darkness to order a die-cast model of a Nissan Skyline R32 GTR. Despite it being $2,500, she buys it anyway using Matt Hardy's credit card, and they find out that it was delivered to a nearby parking lot. Because it was a real car, not a die-cast model. Despite all of this, Aqua is happy to have her own car, and they decide to take it for a test drive. Things go well until they bring it home, finding Monica, Matt Hardy, and Cyanide angry with them. It's then revealed that the car was actually $25,000, but Aqua gets Cosmo to pay Matt for the car. Afterwards they go back in the car, this time with Darkness driving, who would then wreck the car by driving it into the nearby lake. I had the option for the actresses to do some improv, but we never got any of the audio for this season, so there's that. Anyway, next script, Russian Roulette. The guys at the house are seen hanging out in the living room. Aqua comes in with a beer in hand trying to hang out with them. Eventually Sammy comes over and invites them to do something and he suggests that they bring Aqua with them. Just a hunch that he has. So they go to Mafia Man's lair. In case you don't know Mafia Man, he's the angry driver in Cyanide's car problem, and he appeared at the end of Sayori's Job shooting his son DiGiorno. Anyway, it is revealed that they brought Aqua over because the guys will be playing Russian Roulette. The game probably goes as well as you would expect. MC is the first to die, making Cyanide, Cosma, and Sammy freak out. But they continue playing anyway. Cyanide is the next to die, followed by Sammy. And while Mafia Man is adding more bullets to the revolver, DiGiorno comes literally bouncing in, but is then shot by Mafia Man, which we then learn that an engineer will fix him. So the game continues, Minati shoots himself, which leaves Mafia Man and Cosma as the final two. And after some trigger pulling, Mafia Man freaks out as he had loaded 3 bullets into the gun, but Cosma's luck truly strikes. He will then win when Mafia Man shoots himself, and afterward has Aqua revive everybody. The episode ends with Mafia Man admitting defeat, Aqua learning that Cyanide said GG into the Chi-Chi, and everyone leaving. Not gonna lie, this would have made for an interesting episode, at least for a short one. Next script, the double date. We start off with Cyanide and Wiz hanging out in the living room. Monica comes in to ask them to meet her and Matt in the kitchen. In there, Matt suggests going on a double date at Casa Grande, which was a smaller, in-universe version of Casa Bonita. As they prepare, Cosmo and Megumi want to come too, but can't because of the double date already being reserved. So after they leave, we see Doggo and Megumi exchanging some nasty looks, which would lead to the concurrent episode, Prank Wars, but we'll get to that in a minute. So they arrive at Casa Grande, which would lead to some improv parts, but then the shot changes to a side character known as Loner Guy. You may recognize him as the guy who takes in R3 and R3's adventure. Now despite being a fan of Cyanide, he chooses not to bother his dinner, but we can't say the same for DiGiorno. He comes to the table and starts bothering the four. Cyanide tries to politely persuade DiGiorno to leave, but he doesn't listen, which leads to Cyanide having to raise his voice. And DiGiorno's line here may or may not be a reference to a Jeffy line from SML's Gold Play Button video. Afterwards, DiGiorno ends up throwing a plate of food at the back of Cyanide's head. Loner Guy tries to reason with DiGiorno, but Cyanide ends up punching him instead. He tries calling Mafia Man, but even Mafia Man knows DiGiorno was in the wrong, so they beat him up and he explodes. After that, they leave from their ruined date to find the aftermath of the next script. Next script, Prank Wars. The first page is just apart from the double date, but after the four leave, Doggo and Megumi begin to argue with each other. When Doggo leaves to get a snack, a pie is flung onto her face. Megumi has started a prank war. The next few pranks would be Doggo sprinkling some itching powder on Megumin's clothes, and Megumi putting laxative in Doggo's ice cream. Afterwards, Doggo recruits Yunyun, despite stalling, who makes a cupcake with mustard for icing. This prank would lead to Megumi to recruit Natsuki on her side, which their prank is a paint bucket above the door. They were lucky that Doggo and Yunyun were the ones to go through it. There would then be a montage of the two teens pulling pranks on each other until it comes to an end with Megumi grabbing her staff and beginning her chant. Thinking it's for real, Doggo and Yunyun surrender, and Megumi laughs as it was intended to be a prank. It wasn't a prank. The house blows up and the four land in the front yard. Everyone else dead except for Aqua, who was conveniently at the park. But luck runs out for the four as Cyanide and his group return home to find the damage. The episode ends with the four pranksters getting grounded. Yeah, the group going on the double date were basically the moms and dads of the house. Next script, magic tricks. In this script, Cyanide wants to impress Wiz by learning magic, so he asks Kazuma, Megumin, Yunyun, and Aqua for help. They skip Darkness because she doesn't have any magic powers. Kazuma tries to teach him his steal ability, but instead, Cyanide's arm pops off. He then tries to learn the explosion spell from Megumin, but he ends up falling apart. Then he tries learning Light the Saber from Yunyun, only to be struck by lightning. With Aqua being his last hope, he tries to learn Create Water from her. It continues to fail, and Aqua begins insulting him, so he goes to his room to sulk. Later on, Wiz comes in, and after telling her what happened, Wiz explains that she loves Cyanide for who he is, despite not having any magical powers. They hug, and Wiz gives him the green light to return the favor to Aqua. Aqua apologizes for most of what she said, but Cyanide gets her back, leaving Aqua in shock. I think out of all the scripts I went over thus far, this could very well be recycled for the hard reboot. But anyway, let's continue. Next script, Drunk Dog. Natsuki is seen reading some of her manga, and after hearing a bump at her door, Natsuki finds Doggo on the floor, drunk from Aqua's wine. Natsuki states that she's gonna help Doggo to not get caught until they hear Aqua from the kitchen asking who took her wine bottle. Natsuki gets Doggo to stay, and she checks the kitchen. Aqua initially blames Megumin and Darkness as they were both in the kitchen since the morning. But after Natsuki comes in and starts getting asked about the wine bottle, she gets nervous. And to make matters worse, there was a thump coming from the hallway, which Natsuki would volunteer to investigate. Of course, it was Doggo. But shortly after, Megumin tries to check on Natsuki, and Natsuki makes Doggo hide in the closet. When she comes in, Natsuki lies and said she was the one who took Aqua's wine bottle and drank the whole thing, apparently claiming to not be a lightweight. It seems like Megumin believes her until Doggo was heard from the closet, saying that Megumin is too dumb to be drinking. Afterwards, Natsuki pushes Megumin out of her room, which leads her to connect the dots, and of course, snitches to Aqua. Then Doggo literally comes out of the closet to exclaim that she's gay, and Natsuki begins to scold her for blowing her cover. But then she starts going easy on her as she's just looking out for Doggo. Megumin snitches to Aqua, and they decide to tell Sayori, with Megumin's motive being getting Doggo kicked out. Darkness, who overheard the whole thing, goes to Natsuki and offers her help to keep Doggo from getting into trouble. Sayori, MC, and Yuri return home from the park to be greeted by Aqua and Megumin, and they try to tell Sayori what's been going on, but Darkness was there to thwart their attempts. Back in Natsuki's room, Doggo expresses her gratitude for her housemates, and Natsuki in particular for keeping her out of trouble. But that wholesome moment is ruined when she learns that Sayori is home, in which she runs out to hug her. And now the cat's out of the bag. Sayori now knows that Doggo's drunk. But despite all that, and despite Megumin's attempt to kick her out, Sayori's just glad that Doggo was out of trouble. The episode ends with Doggo puking in a bag or bucket from an extreme hangover. Now this is another episode that we're considering recycling. Of course it will most likely be very different compared to this script, but in any case, let's get to the last script for today. Daddy Issues. Now this would be the first episode after the first Just an Average Day where we see Dadsky. The episode starts off with Natsuki and Megumi reading Parfait Girls. Suddenly, Megumi gets an email from her mom, who she hasn't heard from since they moved to Fort Inkei. And because the worlds merged in the original series, the Konosuba world got modern infrastructure. Anyway, Megumi now wants to hear about Natsuki's family, but she doesn't want to talk about it. After Natsuki goes to her room, Megumi talks to Chimusuke and gets the idea to ask R3 for Dadsky's number. There would also be a gag where Chimusuke would do a deep voice meow, which would basically be her saying some kind of swear word. Anyway, Megumi calls Dadsky and invites him over to see Natsuki, but for some reason she doesn't know that Dadsky is pretty pissed off. The next day, Megumi would reveal that Natsuki is getting a visitor, and reveals that it's her dad. She's not very happy about this. Hard knocks are then heard, which JFK would answer. Geez, he barely shows up in this season. Reason being that we were making plans for him to be an actual side character and become mayor of Fort Inkei. Spoiler for the reboot, I guess. Anyway, Dadsky enters and demands that Natsuki returns home, but after saying that she's 20 years old, Natsuki decides to stay in the house with Cyanide, and after that, Cyanide would use his Second Amendment rights to tell Datsky to get off his property before he shoots him. He listens and leaves. After that, Datsky gets abducted by mysterious goons in a van. The next day, Megumin apologizes to Natsuki, and to forget about what happened, Megumin puts on a live episode of her favorite show, Pinshot's Variety Hour. But then they will find out that Datsky is the episode's guest. This episode basically became a chance to recycle parts of the season 2 finale to fit a smaller episode. Natsuki manages to get some of the house members to go to Pinshot's studio to save Datsky. During the episode, Pinshot exchanges some words with Datsky, who is clearly terrified to be on the show. He then brings up the Gauntlet of Discord, which is a very dangerous obstacle course, but then, Natsuki, along with Cyanide, Wiz, Kazuma, Monica, and Matt Hardy arrive, and after a bit of back and forth, Cyanide shoots Pinshot's mask off, revealing its gross scar. Pinshot then calls out his Legion of Fuggernauts, which is just 4 Fuggernauts in different colors. In this script they're named Tinky, Winky, Dinky, and Binky, but I think we ended up changing it to Dongus, Gongus, Mongus, and Joel. Anyway, Pinshot commands his Fuggernauts to attack, but instead get into an argument of their own, which ends with Matt Hardy shoving Pinshot out of frame and seemingly knocking him out. And to get rid of the Fuggernauts, Cyanide just says their greatest fear: the Fiend. They get Datsky and leave Pinshot's studio, where this ends in a heart-to-heart between Natsuki and her father. If Datsky gets the help he needs, Natsuki would be in a better position to forgive him. Matt would then wire Datsky some money for the appointments, and Datsky leaves. Cyanide and Natsuki hug it out, really showing the brother-sister bond they had throughout the show. But then AK makes it awkward. And that's about it for now. If you made it this far, I would like to thank you all so much for watching, and tune in next time where I continue to go over the next half of the season.